All right, guys, here we go. Special pack. Boom. Oh man, would you look at that? That is a looker. Look at this thing. They're calling this foam the Anima PBX or Anima Pebax. And I don't know why every single brand needs to name their foams, but this is a PEBA based foam, 100%. Feels kind of dense, similar to the Light Strike Pro, but soft, nice and soft, a lot softer than the SC Elite V4. And maybe even a little bit softer than the Saucony Endorphin Pro Series and Speed Series with that power on PB we see in there. Now, the first thing that's super notable about this shoe, just looking at it, is the design. This thing is super clean. It looks like a tennis shoe. Not like a literal tennis shoe that you would use to play tennis. I know On has that partnership with Roger Federer. I'm not sure if Diadora has any tennis athletes. I'll have to look it up. But what they've gone with is very clean. I would wear this for casual. We'll see how it is on the fit and feel. But I absolutely love it. And the upper is nice and lightweight. So with that tier shoe that we just reviewed, it had a little bit of an overlay for more stability on the side here. Now, this doesn't necessarily have an overlay, but it is a starchier, more structured piece of fabric around the side. I believe they're calling this the Matrix system upper. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but it is really nice and lightweight. Looks like it will be decently breathable, but this is one of the most pure white shoes I've ever seen here, so it is probably gonna get pretty dirty out here. We actually have some trails that we're gonna be taking it on this morning. So I just checked the specs, and this does have a 5mm drop, which is gonna be nice. I know a lot of you all don't like that 10mm drop that we see in the Vaporfly and some of these other training shoes that can be a little bit aggressive. So 5mm is nice. I think the SC Elite V4 was a 4mm drop. The Saucony is an 8mm drop. The TOIR I think was a 7mm drop. So we got a nice range of options out there. But with this being 5, it's going to be a little bit better for mid to forefoot landing, and also the heel won't be as clunky. And that's an issue that I've had recently with some of these fast training shoes, is when you put a lot of foam in the heel and have a higher drop in a training shoe or racing shoe like this, what that tends to do is maybe it will give it a more stability, but it also kind of gives a braking force. So they haven't done that here. And as we're looking at the width of it, it's not an extremely wide platform, but what they have done, and this is a trend that I'm seeing across the market right now, is giving a generous forefoot foam base up here. The Alphafly did it, the Tier shoe did it, even the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 did it. And also they have a lot of rubber on this thing, and it looks really nice. And I was just looking at the specs page on the Diadora website, and they actually have a brand name for this rubber. I'll flash it up on the screen. It is called Duratech 5000. So with it being named, that means it should have some pretty solid performance out there if they're making it one of the flagship pieces of tech that we put in here. So I'm be curious to try it in some wet weather. Today it's dry. And then we're also seeing strategically placed rubber in the back. This little white strip here, this is rubber actually. So we have this blue rubber here, this whole forefoot of this yellow orange rubber, and then this whole thing back here. If you can see, yeah, let's get a little shot here. This is all rubber as well. So this should be a decent amount of rubber coverage. It's not the thickest, but it's also not the thinnest. I've seen a lot of worse rubber coverage on these racers, and especially in the back here, they've done what we requested, guys. You know, I love this when they extend it all the way out in the back. The Hoka did not do that. The Nike doesn't do that, but that's going to give it a little bit more durability for use during training when you're heel striking or scuffing a little bit more, and also protect this foam back here. As for the laces, they have gone with my favorite style of laces, these Vaporfly 2 laces, where they have these little, I don't even know what you call them, but it's textured almost like a yarn, so that when you crank them down tight, these little nubs, they interlock with each other and make sure that they don't stay untied. So this is what Hoka needs to do, and this is what Adidas needs to do. Even New Balance could do it, but they had nice, clean, classic laces, but I'm glad they didn't do anything too crazy on here. Continuing with the theme from that Tier shoe that we tested, while this is a radically different style than that shoe, it also looks like they didn't mess anything up. But with it being $300, there needs to be some sort of differentiation, and that is going to be the carbon fiber plate. Now, interestingly here, you can see the carbon fiber plate looks like racing carbon fiber. It's the engineering of the plate by Ducati is supposed to be more aggressive up in the forefoot. So I'm actually not seeing a huge rocker profile here. It is fairly flat through the bottom, and on rockered shoes, I can tell they're rockered because when I drop them, they'll rock back and forth. This doesn't really do that, and you can see it has a toe spring. The geometry actually really reminds me of the New Balance 1080 V13, which I've been rocking a lot recently, and the overall stack as well. But it's just a nice gentle toe spring up here, so it looks like more of a classic running shoe, which is interesting for that $300 price point, and with how much they were hyping up the curvature of the plate. We're gonna have to see how it performs out there on the run, but it doesn't look like it has too much crazy going on just right here out of the box. I also did want to point out here, we see, I didn't mention this before, but we do see the Rock Catcher 5000. I'm assuming we're actually going to catch some rocks out here on the greenway this morning. But what this is going to do is save a little bit of weight, and it also should provide a little bit more stability for landing. Now, this doesn't look like it has the widest midfoot, and that's something that's a little bit concerning for me with how I run. So I'm not sure if this is going to be great at marathon pace, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do this workout I'm doing this morning is because it is a 5K or faster pace workout, 5K to mile race pace. And this is the perfect type of shoe for me for that type of thing, where it looks like it's gonna have a little bit of a softer, more compressive foam, but also with a little bit of a more natural feeling. It's not gonna get super weighed down. So something like the Hoka Cielo X, I would not want to use that for a 5K workout. The upper we're seeing here is a little bit padded. Now, one of the trends I'm seeing on these racing shoes is actually they're moving away from the super minimalist uppers that we saw a few years ago with the Vaporfly 2 and some of the other shoes. And this is a way more structured, built-up upper. So we'll have to see how this does in the weigh-in, but it is really substantial. There's a lot of padding around the back, more padding than even some training shoes that I've tested recently. So it seems like it should give a good lockdown, and if it doesn't, then I have just no idea what all the padding is for. And then, of course, with the carbon fiber plate, it's extremely stiff. I'm not getting any flexibility in the platform. A little bit. You'll get a little bit of flex there, but of course the carbon's going to mean it's very rigid. Just one more little push test here. Yeah, look how soft this foam is. Wow. I mean, we'll see how this does at 5K, 10K pace, because this is a very soft foam. I think some of you more efficient glider, high cadence type of runners might like this one. We'll see. All right, let's do this little weigh-in. All right, guys, zero it out. All right, guys, right shoe here coming in at 237. Yeah, 237 on the nose. All right, let's try the other shoe. I was looking in the box, and they also gave us a spare pair of laces. That's super nice. All right, other shoe here. Let's try this guy. All right, left shoe, 237. Right shoe, 236.5. That is very close. And they actually say on their website, let me see if I can fire this up. They say that there's a 3% difference. Yeah, you can see here. They say there's a plus or minus 3% difference, which is super nice. I love that they're transparent, because not all companies are as transparent as this. And you can see matrix mesh with carbon yarns. That's the upper. Insole is EVA, and then midsole, of course, you got the Pebax with the carbon plate. And this is what I was telling you about, the Duratec 5000 wear resistant compound. So we'll see. Wear resistant, Diadora? You wear resistant? Okay, we'll see. 200-mile review, Diadora Gara, let's go. In terms of the weight itself with these guys, that does put it a little bit on the heavier side, and I'm surprised to see that these brands are going with a little bit of these heavier shoes. They could have cut weight in a lot of areas. Like with this upper, it's a little bit more built up, and I'm sure they could have shaved some weight off the foam and not put as much rubber, but maybe for $300 they want to make a really durable shoe. So I understand that. And with having this in the house now, we are going to put this thing through the durability paces. However, I was anticipating that we would see a little bit of a race to the bottom when it comes to weight with that Adidas Adios Pro Evo coming out last year, because they got their differentiation in that was shaving a ton of weight, putting it around that 5-ounce range. So we'll see. This thing was in development. They kickstarted development a few years before we saw that Pro Evo. So it's possible that the next batch of shoes we see in 25 and 26 will all be coming in 5-ounce, 6-ounce range, below 200 grams maybe. But this guy, for now, it's a little bit more of a built-up shoe, and I am really excited to put a ton of miles on this thing and see how it does, because they're calling it Duratec wear-resistant rubber. All right, guys, time for our initial fit and feel. All right, guys, we got the Ghost Max on today, so this is going to be a little bit of a transition moving into these Diadora Gara. But yeah, so plan for this morning, as I lace these up here, is to do a rep and interval style workout. So I've been roughly following the Jack Daniels marathon training final 12-week plan. for the past few weeks, and it has a huge focus on threshold work. So lactate threshold is pace you can run for roughly about an hour in a race, and improving your lactate threshold, making your threshold pace faster, means that you can race a faster marathon, you'll get more efficient, you can run longer without getting tired. And so that's one big piece of it, threshold pace. And I've been doing these ridiculous long runs with 8 miles of threshold in it and 16 miles at marathon pace with 4 miles at threshold, and just absolute wild stuff. And another big piece of it is long runs. So he actually has 2 long runs per week, which I might start doing. So there's a 20 miler and then a 22 miler, just absolutely nuts stuff. This guy, Jack Daniels, is a menace. And then he also has some faster stuff mixed in to help with turnover. And today is one of those slightly faster days. So we got a 6 kilometer repeats. So 6 by 1K, as those running people say. I'll just say, yo, we're gonna run 6 kilometers this morning. Let's do it, bro. With, I think, 2 minutes of rest in there. And then there's 4 by, is it 4? Yeah, I think it's 4 by 400 meters at about 1 mile race pace, maybe a little bit slower. So that's gonna be a pretty hard session after the end of that. And I thought this would be a good workout to test these shoes, because they are positioning this as an elite racing shoe, and so elites are going to be racing in that 5-minute range, which is what I'll be running today. And of course, I cannot race a marathon or a half marathon at that 5-minute pace range at this point in my running journey, but it'll be a good test to see how these perform with some decently fast speed. Is this a legit racing shoe? And first thing I'm noticing, step in, and you guys will be happy to know this, the toe box is extremely roomy. I am shocked. I have a ton of volume in here, and more than any other shoe I've tested, it actually feels a little bit long. And I went 10.5 true to size. You might be able to, we'll see after we'll see, but you might be able to size half a size down. This feels really roomy compared to a lot of the other things that I've been rocking recently. And on step in, the foam feels a little bit firmer than what I was touching in my hands. It feels pretty nice. I don't know what it's comparable to. Again, Lightstrike Pro might be a good comparison with the density. You can see here in the back with this low compression, it is giving me a nice little snap back there, but you can see it compresses all the way down as I put my weight in it. And I can feel a little bit of that forefoot rocker. It's definitely more prominent on foot, but again, it doesn't feel super weird putting it on. It almost, looking down from the top, it kind of looks like an Asics Nova Blast or some sort of an Asics shoe. It's a clean looking shoe. Stepping feels comfortable. It definitely feels more like a regular sneaker. I could totally walk around all day in this, and we'll see how this foam performs, whether it needs some braking or not, but on foot it feels just a tad firmer than I thought it was gonna feel. So it might do really well with some pace. I've got to say, just walking around here, the fit of the upper isn't awesome, especially with the front, with a little bit of that wider toe box. It's not 100% dialed in. So we'll see how it performs out there on the run. I usually don't notice these things when running, but I try to nitpick as much as possible, because I know some people who do have issues with fit, and these things make a whole lot of a difference. All right, guys, enough yapping. It's time to get these miles in. Man, I'm gonna have to call these the smooth criminals, because they do not look like they got get up and go. But let me tell you, when you step on it, something going on. It's the plate up here, the Ducati manufactured plate. That is not a gimmick. Something it's just popping me right off up in the front when I'm picking up the pace here. So, woo, smooth criminal. So initial thoughts on the Diadora Gara after the first run. This is a fun shoe. So we took it out for 10.5 miles of total volume. I would have liked to get a little bit more volume this morning, but I spent a lot of time doing some other stuff, so that's what we got today. And so I did a 2-mile warm-up, and then we went into 6-kilometer repeats. First one was down on the dirt track a little bit here, so used it as an extended warm-up, and then 5 of them really working good, trying to get down to that sub 550 pace. Some of them I hit pace exactly. I think target pace was around 530. Some of them I missed. The wind was absolutely whipping when I was going, I think it's the west direction from Boyce to McAlpine, so that was pretty tough. I didn't hit pace there. When coming back down the other way, there was no problem, and I was pretty much on target. Then after those 6 kilometers, did a 1-mile cool down or transition pace, and then went into 400 reps. And you don't have to do that much of a cool down or transition between those two, but I want a little bit of extra rest. I probably could have actually used another rest day between my 22 miler on Sunday and today, but hey, this is a learning process, so maybe I'll start doing my workouts on Wednesday, or I'll just shift the schedule around a little bit. But for those 400s, I tried to take them at sub 530 pace. Some of them I hit, some of them I didn't. I think it was around 510 was my target, and felt pretty good. Now for the shoe, this was a really fun ride out there. Now as soon as I took it onto the dirt track, it started to feel fun and come alive when I worked my pace down a little bit, and I didn't have to run too hard for the shoe to feel fun. And the foam in here, it reminds me a little bit, let's see if we can get the Anima PBX. It reminds me a little bit of the last generation of Fuel Cell, or I guess the current generation of Fuel Cell, depending on what shoes you're rocking, but the Rebel V3, the SC Trainer V2, not the updated Peba that we're seeing in the SC Elite V4 and the Peba EVA blend and the Rebel V4, but the last one, which is a supercritical TPU and EVA blend. This is giving me classic supercritical Peba vibes or supercritical foam vibes. It's right in between a Light Strike Pro, so it's not as dense as that, but also not as soft, and it doesn't compress as much as a Zoom X. So at everyday running paces, at training paces, it felt really fun. And I didn't mind just cruising along at those everyday paces. And it felt okay to land on the heel, but it really did want me to land up closer to the midfoot and forefoot, and that's where the shoe felt best. The foam really comes alive when running up here, and something about the plate in here, I'm not sure if it is what that Ducati manufactured curve, but it felt like the curve was a little bit up further, so when I was running faster and hitting it right at the front here, it really just popped me off, and it was a nice sensation when running at that sub 530 pace range. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite racing shoes of all time, the Vaporfly 2. This foam doesn't compress as much, and it does feel like there's a little bit more stack here, but it has more of that simple traditional feel that I like sometimes in a shorter distance racing shoe. It's not super rockered. It doesn't feel as high as something like that Hoka Cielo. It doesn't feel as awkward as something like the Alphafly. It really is a nice simple feeling shoe, but at that $300 price point, we're gonna want a little more than simplicity in order to pull the trigger there. So I'm not sure if the performance of this justifies that $300 price tag, but it is a really well-made shoe. Now, one of the things that Diadora highlighted on their website about the shoe and what makes it have that $300 price tag is, of course, the brand, but they want it to be more durable, wear resistant is what they call it. So let's take a look at the outsole here after one run, and oh, would you look at that? We got another Rock Catcher 5000 here. You can see we already have a little bit of wear on the foam from where we run today here, but the rubber is of course not going to show too much wear after one run. Now in terms of the upper, that was one of the concerns when I put the shoe on, but it didn't feel awkward at all. It is maybe a tad long, and I'm not sure if that's just the way that they manufacture the shoe to give you a little bit more room, but I actually think it's fine in my 10.5. I would go true to size. Unless you really like your racing shoes to have a snug feeling, then you could go down half a size in this. Now with the foam giving me that SC Trainer vibe almost at those everyday running paces, I felt like this was a super comfortable shoe for just going out there and cruising. So I would like to use this next for a long run where I don't have any marathon pace in there, because I think this might be a nice shoe if you're going in that 330 marathon range, or if you want a long run shoe with a little bit more cushion to it that's not as aggressive as some of the other marathon racing options. Now we keep going back to the price tag here because $300 is a lot for a racing shoe, but the performance today showed me that this is a competitive option, and there aren't very many bad racing shoes out there. They're just all going to work a little bit better for you based on your mechanics, also based on your budget. So this is definitely not going to be the best buy in terms of value, and there's nothing in here that's going to blow me away that's going to justify $25 more than that Hoka Cielo or $15 more than the Alphafly, unless you want the brand, and brand is an important thing, right? Brands are a reflection, the brands we buy are a reflection of what we want to see in ourselves, of our identity, how we want to present ourselves to the world. So I will not minimize that at all. But in terms of the pure performance of this, it's definitely not going to shave 5 minutes off your marathon
Marathon PR versus a Vaporfly or an SE Elite, but I do think it can work really nicely for you if you don't want as much compression in a foam as we get in that Zoom X, or if you don't want a foam to be as firm and dense as we see in the Light Strike Pro or some of the other firmer racing foams like the SE Elite V4. So this really is in that sweet spot for me, and today showed it's a very versatile shoe. We got to do a few more tests for this guy, and let me know, actually, this is one where I want to source workouts for you. What kind of workouts do you want to see me put this through to see whether it's worth that $300 price point? I think for me, I want to take it up to 200 miles to see how the durability does, because they said wear resistant, and that is a challenge. Puma told me Molly Seidel ran 90 miles a week in the Velocity Nitro 3, so that's what kickstarted our 100-mile week test. And I'm not going to do a 100-mile week test on this, but I will try to really test how the durability is. So besides taking it up to a high mileage level, what workouts do you want to see me do? We're of course going to do a 20+ miler in this, but other than that, let me know. Do you want to see marathon pace, half marathon pace, whatever it is, let me know. Now, one of the questions that I got when I posted this shoe on Instagram is, does the performance and style warrant the higher price tag? So I answered the performance one a little bit, but in terms of the styling, yes, this thing looks significantly better and different than anything else offered. I really love the way that tier shoe looked, or is that clean athletic styling. And this is that clean athletic styling, but a different way too. It's a little bit of that European tennis, really clean look. And this is a shoe that you could wear around town because the step-in feel is nice. So if it is as durable as they say it is, and you're the type of runner who wants, maybe you have a Nike Pegasus or something that you take to the gym, and you want something that you can occasionally do half marathons in, or you're going to do a marathon once a year, and you want a shoe that looks really good and you got the money to spend, then yes, this is going to be a much cleaner look than anything else out there. A much different look. Doesn't have any gaudy colors. It's not a bright Nova Blast just smacked with neon green. So yes, the style is awesome. Similar to that Tracksmith Elliott runner, right? That's a $200 daily trainer. We're going to be paying a little bit more for the style, and the performance of that is really good, but you can get similar performance from something like a Vomero. So with this, it's the same thing, right? The performance of this is really good so far. We're gonna have to test the durability and how it does over the long run, but I think what you're really paying for is the styling and some of the story and the heritage to it, that they did go out there and work with Ducati to get the plate. And I don't minimize any of that either, because the story is part of what makes these products so special, and that's one of the reasons why I like highlighting some of these niche products on the channel, because I just think they're pretty darn cool. Now, I just put on my Ghost Max after this workout, and these are just as comfortable as the Ghost Max, if not a little bit more, because you're getting that Peba foam that compresses a little bit. So that's also what you're going to be paying for with this. It is versatile enough where I know some people poke fun at folks who wear Alphaflys, and I've seen people wearing Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s in the airport, and it's a little bit confusing. But if you do want a running shoe that's nice and you can wear around, then this is it. And it does have the plate in it, of course, but I think that's also what they might be going for. People who want just the best of the best in a running shoe, and that's really what this is, right? It has the Peba foam, it has the carbon fiber plate, the plate is from Ducati, it is the best of the best, and the price tag is gonna reflect that, but you are really getting a nice quality product here that is super comfortable. All right, guys, so let me know what workouts you want to see in this next. As always, I appreciate you watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another video.